Do you know how bad the hair of synchronized swimmers can get during competitions? According to the competition rules, if an athlete's hair falls out, they will be deducted points. Therefore, all athletes have an important task before the competition, applying fish glue powder to their hair. They pour the fish glue powder into a bowl and mix it thoroughly with warm water until it melts. Fish glue is an essential ingredient for making jelly. Once applied to the hair and dried with the cool air from a hairdryer, it solidifies quickly, which is much more effective than traditional hair gel. To ensure nothing goes wrong, athletes don't just apply one layer, but cover their hair with many layers until it becomes as hard as a candied fruit. The sound of the hard hair is like it has a layer of hard shell, but what people don't know is that it smells very unpleasant, even extremely stinky. Therefore, some athletes use special liquid gel to apply and solidify, which reduces the smell somewhat, but that's not the main issue. The most torturous part is cleaning up after the competition. Since fish glue is not soluble in water, it is exceptionally difficult to clean. It's like a big piece of chewing gum stuck all over your hair. Athletes must first rinse with hot water, wait for it to soften, and then use available tools to gradually remove it. However, even with this method, it's still inevitable that some hair will be pulled out, and it takes a long time to recover. This is what you would call a real house move. The entire house was moved in one piece. Not only can it be moved on land, but it can also travel on water. The house was successfully moved to a new location dozens of kilometers away. The first step of this project was figuring out how to lift the house, weighing hundreds of tons, from its original spot. Workers first hollowed out the house's foundation, then inserted several steel beams, and placed dozens of hydraulic jacks beneath the beams. By raising the jacks simultaneously, the house could be lifted on the spot. Since the bottom of the steel beams was designed with rollers, the house could be dragged horizontally using a towing vehicle, moving it to the prepared location. A bulldozer would then push the wheel sets, allowing the house to move on land. However, there were too many obstacles like trees along the way, making the move difficult. The team had no choice but to switch to a water route. After building a floating platform of the right size, a new issue arose. If the house wasn't pulled exactly to the center of the platform, it would easily lose balance and sink into the water. The solution was to place two bulldozers behind it, pushing the house onto the floating platform. Once this step was completed successfully, a tugboat was connected to tow the platform across the water. This method worked fine at first, but the massive house acted like a sail, and when the wind blew, it would change the direction of travel. If it wasn't controlled well, it could crash into the bridge ahead. After much consideration, the tugboat was replaced with a pushboat to push the house through the bridge from behind. Once they successfully passed through, the house was brought ashore, and by reversing the initial water entry process, it was pulled onto land again. The bulldozers were switched back to continue moving the house on land. Upon arriving at the new location, the jacks were used again to remove the wheel sets, and a new foundation was established. And thus, the house's journey across mountains and waters came to an end, and it was successfully moved to its new address. How amazing is that? The machine harvests peanuts by first pulling them out of the ground along with their roots and soil. The peanuts are then flipped 180 degrees to expose them to sunlight. One machine can harvest 3 rows of peanuts at the same time. After thorough drying, a combine harvester is used to complete the final harvesting. The entire process is mechanized, so farmers no longer need to pull peanuts out by hand. When the peanuts are ripe, the first machine used is the peanut inverter. It consists of a frog-shaped shovel, a horizontal conveying rod, and 6 rotating wheels. Each 2 rotating wheels form a group, spinning at a certain angle at high speed. As the frog-shaped shovel digs 30 centimeters into the ground, the horizontal conveying rod at the back moves the peanuts towards the rear. When the peanuts reach the rotating wheels, they are hit by the wheels to knock off the attached soil. Next is the arc-shaped flipping rod, which catches the peanuts from the rotating wheels and flips them 180 degrees. At this point, the peanuts have a high moisture content. This method allows the peanuts to be exposed to sunlight to help dry out the internal moisture. After about a week, the peanut combine harvester can be used. It has a row of harvesting rollers at the front covered with iron rods. As these rollers spin, they pull the peanuts and dried branches into the machine. The internal fruit separator separates the peanuts from the branches, and the stripped peanut vines are expelled from the back of the machine. The peanuts remain in the storage bin. Once the storage bin is full, the peanuts are transferred via a side conveyor belt directly to the truck bed for loading. How amazing is that? Put the sheep in the cage and completely immerse them in water for 10 seconds. When the cage is opened again, over 98% of the pests in the wool will be removed. This is a commonly used method by sheep farmers to remove pests. While a 1-second soak can only remove pests from the sheep's body, to remove pests from the wool, this method is necessary. Choose a sunny morning to gather all the sheep, ensuring they are not full or thirsty. Then, start soaking them in batches. The water here is mixed with organic acid without salt, which not only doesn't harm the sheep's skin, but also effectively kills fleas and lice hidden in the wool. During this process, staff will continuously press the sheep's head into the water with a fork to ensure every inch of the wool is thoroughly soaked. Finally, dry the wool under the sun. Besides regular soaking for pest control, many farms also spray sheep with insecticides. At the entry and exit points of the breeding shed, 2 wooden boards are designed with spray tanks on the top and bottom. Each sheep passing through here will be sprayed with insecticide. The soaking cage you saw at the beginning of the video is only used here, as sheep will hold their breath underwater, so there's no need to worry about them choking on the water. Isn't this amazing? There are 3 wolf tooth rollers in the front and 3 more at the back. In the middle is a ring of peeling blades. Dragging the wood with bark through here will complete the bark removal process. This is a mobile peeling machine. It is brought to the site to complete the bark removal work at the source, saving the need to transport it to a processing plant and simplifying the peeling process. After the trees are cut down, preliminary processing is done on the spot, and then the wood is sent directly to furniture factories and paper mills. The wolf tooth rollers on the sides of the machine do not have a peeling effect. They mainly serve to push the wood. Each side of the machine has a mechanical grabber to pile the cut trees aside. Then, the mechanical grabber at the machine's inlet grabs the wood and sends it to the front end of the peeling machine. At that point, the 3 wolf tooth rollers will converge in the middle, using their surface spikes to firmly hold the wood and rotate it inward. Meanwhile, the dozen or so peeling blades in the center of the machine will rotate at high speed against the wood, peeling off the outer 2 centimeters of bark bit by bit. Finally, the wolf tooth rollers at the back will catch and push out the peeled wood, while the mechanical grabber at the other end will grab the peeled wood and place it aside. On average, a 10-meter-long piece of wood takes only 1 minute to peel. During this time, all the bark fragments are blown aside by a blower at the bottom, which can be used as fuel. How is that? Isn't it amazing? The secret behind high diving revealed. Why do some people diving from a 10-meter platform create almost no splash, while even just using a toilet can result in a splash of water? Actually, the size of the splash is mainly related to the Wharton flow. When you drop a metal ball into the water, you can see a long tunnel of air forming above the ball. This tunnel is filled with air. Due to the principle of pressure, the pressure inside the tunnel is much lower than the surrounding water pressure, causing the tunnel to collapse. At this point, the collision between the water molecules generates a significant amount of energy, creating a strong upward jet of water. If the object hitting the water is large and heavy enough, the splash can even hit you in the face. To score high in high diving, the key is to avoid creating a Wharton flow. Before hitting the water, the diver must position their body like this. Keep the toes pointed straight, extend the knees, tighten the glutes, contract the abs, and stretch the arms behind the head. Of course, it's even more important that the palms are as flat as possible. Only by forming this arched body shape will the diver penetrate the water like a needle, creating minimal splash. The reason for this is to reduce the diameter of the air tunnel above, thus avoiding the large splash typical of a fish-like splash position. But doing this alone isn't enough. The process of minimizing splash actually occurs underwater, which we usually don't pay much attention to. After hitting the water, the diver will adopt a position with arms spread out, dispersing the air tunnel and breaking large bubbles into smaller ones. As a result, without the air tunnel, there will be less splash. And if you can't achieve this, it's best to put down a piece of toilet paper before using the toilet. With a snap, the sausage was immediately broken into 2 pieces. This raised curiosity about whether a rising car window would pinch a hand. Every year, countless people suffer hand injuries due to such accidents. To test how powerful it is, experiments showed that a carrot can be completely pinched from end to end. A slightly thicker cucumber faces the same outcome. The rising car window doesn't stop at all. Even more surprising, it can pinch an apple in half, and even a watermelon. To simulate a finger being pinched, someone created a fake finger with artificial bones inside. When placed on the car window, at the moment the glass rises, the finger is pinched off immediately, with the bones inside also broken in 2. Of course, some might say that most modern electric car windows are equipped with an anti-pinch feature, but in reality, it's not always effective. When placing objects on windows with the anti-pinch feature, it's easy to see that the window does stop, but not for all objects. For example, an empty bottle or a can may be pinched directly without the window stopping. This is because the object being pinched needs to have a certain level of hardness to trigger the window's anti-pinch function. However, even when triggered, fragile objects can still be damaged. One can only imagine how severe the consequences would be if it were a child's hand or a pet's paw being pinched. Do you know how much prize money the Pakistani athlete earned from his incredible javelin throw at the Paris Olympics? Not counting the car and apartment he was given, just the official bonus upon returning to his home country was 3.1 billion Pakistani rupees, equivalent to about 1.061 million USD. Truly a throw that broke all limits. No wonder his coach was wide-eyed with amazement. So how is a javelin made? In fact, since the javelin was introduced to the Olympics in 908, its manufacturing process and materials have seen many improvements and upgrades. Currently, the materials used are primarily aluminum alloy tubes with a hollow design inside, about 3 centimeters in diameter. The tail end is pressed into a conical shape depending on the size, but it must comply with international rules. Once the tail is formed, any excess is trimmed off. The maximum length for a javelin is 230 centimeters for women and 270 centimeters for men. Although the aluminum tube is already very straight, it still needs to be further straightened using a bending machine and visually inspected. Then, a grinding machine is used to make minor adjustments to any bent areas and to control the javelin's diameter and weight. The javelin head is made from stainless steel, with a diameter slightly larger than that of the aluminum tube for easier assembly. A solid sharp point is welded onto the head and continuously polished to ensure it is completely smooth before moving on to the assembly stage. The painted aluminum tube and the head are fitted together, and the overall weight is measured. If it is lighter than the standard weight, lead blocks are inserted into the aluminum tube, and knotted ropes are placed inside to prevent the lead blocks from shifting. Once the head and body are securely connected, glue is evenly applied to the grip area, and finally, it is wrapped with cotton string. A javelin that meets aerodynamic standards is now complete. However, owning it is just the foundation for striking it rich with a single throw. The key is, you also need strength. Do you know the consequences of using an adrenaline auto-injector the wrong way? A girl, during practice, accidentally injected herself in the finger because she held it the wrong way. The frightening thing is, if not treated in time, it could lead to serious consequences. This type of auto-injector commonly found on the market is called an adrenaline auto-injector. Its internal structure is very simple. Once you press it against an object, the switch will activate and a needle about 3 centimeters long will immediately be injected, delivering adrenaline. The function of adrenaline is well known. When injected in the right place, a single shot can save a life in just seconds. However, if injected incorrectly, for example, into a finger, it will cause the blood vessels to constrict, blocking blood flow, and eventually lead to tissue death due to a lack of blood. At this point, it is necessary to elevate the leg to allow blood to flow to the finger while waiting for medical assistance. As for how to differentiate the correct direction, it's actually quite simple. Just remember that the blue end should face the sky, and the orange end should face the skin. If you can't remember, the correct usage instructions are also clearly printed on the injector's packaging. Additionally, to make it easier to use and reduce reading time, a rectangular injector has been invented. The special switch design at the front not only prevents accidental injections into the finger, but also features a voice prompt system. The user simply follows the spoken instructions to use the adrenaline correctly and save a life in time.